Welcome to today's deep dive. Today is February 19th, 2026, and we are looking at this really unusual document that was just filed today at the Oficialia de Partes down in Nuevo Leon.
Yeah, it's definitely not your standard zoning dispute or tax proposal.
Right, not at all. So we have this citizen initiative from a 28-year-old veterinary assistant named Luis, and it really challenges the fundamental legal definitions of identity. Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack what this law actually proposes and the specific anti-discrimination measures they're asking for.
The proposal itself is called the Ley Therian,
Right.
or Therian Law. And we should probably clarify right off the bat that this isn't some internet prank or a social media stunt.
No, it has a formal lawyer attached to it.
Exactly. It is a formal legislative push to get legal rights for people who identify psychologically or spiritually as animals.
And looking at Lewis himself, the distinction between performance and identity is kind of the whole foundation of this filing, because he works at a veterinary clinic as a human.
Yes, but in his private life, he identifies as a horse.
Right. And the filing makes the case that this is an intrinsic condition, not a costume, not role play. And that requires state protection. So the term Therian.
Therian, right. The legal brief defines it as a community of people who inherently believe they are non-human animals at a very integral level.
And Luce and his lawyer, Mauricio Castillo, are arguing that this identity naturally invites social rejection.
Yeah, and because of that rejection, the state has a duty to guarantee their physical and psychological integrity.
They aren't just asking for some vague statement of support either. The text of the proposal is incredibly specific. I was reading through the section on education, and they are demanding coexistence protocols in schools.
That part is intense.
It really is. It explicitly calls for sanctions against teachers or directors who ignore the bullying of Therian students.
Which completely shifts the burden of acceptance onto the school system. I mean, if a student is exhibiting animalistic behaviors.
Like acting like a wolf or a horse in class.
Exactly. If they face harassment and the staff doesn't intervene, the school staff would be legally liable under this proposal. It moves the whole thing from just a classroom management issue into a strict legal compliance issue.
And to enforce that compliance, the proposal outlines the creation of citizen observatories.
Basically, monitoring bodies.
Yeah, to watch how schools and institutions handle these situations. The lawyer is essentially demanding a surveillance mechanism to protect this specific minority.
It's a really comprehensive strategy. They're also asking the Ministry of Health to step in with psychological support.
And the Attorney General's office, too.
Right, the Fiscalia.
Yeah.
To prevent hate crimes, they are framing this as the literal matter of immediate physical safety.
Which makes sense when you look at the demographics Lissy's citing. The urgency is really tied to the youth.
Yeah, the age range is the driving factor here.
He says he is 28, so he's used to people calling him crazy. But he estimates there were about 100 Therians in Nuevo Leon.
And most of them are teenagers, between 14 and 21 years old.
Right, so he's really pushing this legislation for them.
Because adolescents just don't have the defense mechanisms that an adult like Lewis has built up over time. By seeking to legally classify this identity as dignified, they're trying to strip away the stigma that leads to psychological harm.
It creates this fascinating legal paradox, though. You're asking the state to validate a subjective internal experience that goes against basic biological taxonomy.
And if the legislature actually takes this up, they have to figure out the boundaries.
Yeah.
Where does personal expression end, and where does institutional disruption begin?
Which leaves you with a really provocative question to think about. If the Ley Therian actually passes, how do schools practically implement a coexistence protocol for a classroom containing humans and different species?
Yeah, where exactly is that legal line drawn between a protected identity and a disrupted lesson plan?
Something for you to mull over. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.